an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering the Hunger Games prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, chapters 23, 24, and 25. In these chapters, Coriolanus gets to see his girl again, and all seems well. And then he catches Sejanus talking to some sympathizer, and they're drawing a map, and everything seems to really go down the drain. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say, who murdered 3. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where dead men called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you?
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
Okay, so we start this one off immediately after the end of the last chapter, so you were proved right on your theory about it being the Mockingjays that are picking up his last words. Pretty spooky.
Yeah, because we talked. I think we talked about it last time with my theory. I was thinking about that moment with Katniss and Finnick.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wonder if when you read this and you see the impact that this has, how creepy it is and how affected everybody is by it, it made me wonder, like, if Snow remembers this and later on in the development of the games, if this becomes sort of like an inspiration for him. But maybe it doesn't even have to develop that late, because later on in like this chapter or the next chapter, he like writes a letter to Dr. Gall.
Mm-hmm,
and now I'm curious. I don't know if she ever responds to him, but I'm wondering if she does, and that he ends up feeding her stuff that he doesn't even realize he's feeding her. So I'm just going to keep an eye on that. You know, it depends on if she answers his letter and the tone in which she answers it. I'm curious to see, or maybe that's not something, maybe he doesn't see her again until after he gets out of District 12, which he's supposed to do 20 years. And
yeah, but
this idea of him taking an officer test, and you know, he's going to pass it. Like, we don't get the results in these chapters, but he's passing that fucking test. Come on now. So I don't know if this is so much on the table, and we're not even talking about what's going on yet, but there's a lot of things spinning in my brain. Like, I'm wondering if he becomes an officer in the Peacekeepers, does that mean he doesn't have to do 20 years in 12? Maybe he moves up the ranks and gets back to the Capitol as a soldier, but still gets back to the Capitol? Or does he really do 20 years here in District 12, which my body is saying he doesn't do a whole 20 years in District 12, but I don't know how that shakes out exactly.
How he gets out of it, yeah.
You know. But yeah, so this whole thing, this execution is just like, I know it happened in the last chapter, but it is such a bummer. Doesn't seem to do it justice, but it really does like change the tone, because the first couple of, like, I'm not sure how long he's been here, but the first couple of days is all washing dishes and getting to know his bunk mates and like doing like very harmless drills and learning formations, you know, and then they have this execution and all of a sudden like shit got real. And that just sort of changes like what he's doing here and the capacity that he's like, what his purpose is. And I was feeling that way. And then we'll get to what happens when they finally go to see the performance and how that mood changes, and you get reminded of what his place is.
That I found so fascinating. Yeah. We're all able to just put that aside until somebody starts some shit, and then it's very distinct sides again. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, so it starts with them realizing that it's the birds and everybody just being super creeped out. And I love the fucking major being like, when Snow is like, but what are they exactly? And he's just like, a mistake. And Corio is just like, it's a mutation. And the major explains what we already knew from Katniss's stories, but how the Jabberjays were left to just die out. This is an interesting detail. They were all male. All the Jabberjays were male.
Life finds a way. I don't think that detail was shared other places, but
I don't think so either, because I was just like, oh, that's really, really interesting. So that the assumption was that once they served their purpose, they would just leave them and they would just die. And they were like, no, how about we do this instead? And we get a whole new species of bird. And then what does fucking Coriolanus think to do? We should just fucking make target practice out of them.
Coriolanus felt sure he'd spotted his first mockingjay, and he disliked the thing on sight. Which feels very on the nose.
Yeah,
I get it. The mockingjay. Okay, calm down.
Yeah.
That's been highlighted by 8,000 people, and there are times where I just want to be like, that didn't warrant hihighlighting everybody. Everybody should have booed that line, in fact.
I had the same exact reaction that you did. And I know that like sometimes it can feel like me and you are often like too much on the same page, but I swear to God, I had the same exact reaction to that. Like, we get it. We get it.
Yep.
All of President Snow's obsession and fixation is all going to be explained in this book. You're going to tell me why he hates 12. You're going to tell me why he hates the Mockingjay. Like, yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Everybody just calm down. So, he comes up with the idea of using them for target practice, and that is a suggestion he makes, and they take him up on a little bit later, but we'll get into that eventually. And there's just a sort of sense after all of this of like the vibe changing, and Sejanus is like, I really didn't think this through. And Coriolanus says, what do you mean? And he just doesn't answer.
What?
So
this Sejanus, guys, I'm a little, I think he is a sweet cinnamon roll. I do. I think that he means well, but I wanted to just kind of shake him a little bit reading these chapters.
Yeah.
I really wanted to just take him by his shoulders and give him a good shake to knock something loose in his brain. I don't know what exactly, but something needs to be knocked loose, because what did you think? Then what we find out later on with him and what's his name? Last name is what's the bad guy's name? Billy? No.
Oh, the bad kid. Oh my God! Now I've lost it. She says it so many times, and she always uses his full name. How did I forget it?
I even looked up his. Oh my God! What is it? I can't believe I can't think of this fucking kid's name.
Let's call him John Doe for right now.
But when he gets caught, like making the map of the base with this kid, just like I don't know.
Billy Tope.
Thank you.
God,
that was painful. I got the Billy right though, but it meant nothing without the last name.
Yeah, you got more
right?
than me.
But yeah, Sejanus is just he is visibly shaken by what he's seen at this execution, and he is really just wondering, like, what am I going to do here? And how am I going to fit in
Mm-hmm.
here? Like, I don't think I can do this. And I was a little frustrated with him. And, usually I'm very, very empathetic and have patience for, like, people I think are, like, inherently good if I decide
Mm-hmm.
that they're good. But this kid, y'all, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seems to, like, really lack good judgment. Like, he's good of heart.
Yeah, his intentions are great, but when he says he didn't think this through, that is very literally correct. You did not, sir.
No,
all
not
of this
even.
was right there for you to figure out, and you just didn't stop and consider it.
Yeah.
That's on you.
Yeah. And I feel bad because I don't even know if he had a lot of options. We find out a little bit later on that his dad, getting him into the Peacekeepers cost a lot. Like a gym and a lab. So I don't even know what all his options were, but yeah, I don't know.
Apparently he tried to be like, well, Coriolanus got to go, and Dr. Gall was there at the hearing, I guess. I don't even know what to call it. And it was basically like, those are not the same thing at all.
Yeah.
Your son basically committed treason. So yeah, he had to really fight for. I don't know what it was that they were going to do. Were they going to like execute him? Like, what was the other option? It's never really said.
I feel like when he tells us, it's like maybe jail is possible. I don't feel like execution was on the case, but we'll get to it and we'll get reminded. I can't believe that these details are escaping me. So early in the recording.
It's all right. Everybody, I'm sorry that we don't have the brains that we had before COVID, but I blame COVID. And, I think you've only had it the one time, so that's probably not what's happening in your case, but we'll just ride that COVID excuse wave.
Yeah, I'm going to ride the wave, but I've never actually had it. I've never had it. We have gone. You
haven't had it at all? I thought you got it once, like more recently.
I got the COVID shot and got sick for the first time.
That's what I'm thinking of.
But
okay.
It was the closest I've gotten. And that shit put me on my ass. Like, I got it in January and it put me on my, and it was just a vaccine. I had a terrible reaction this last time. But no, me and Steve rode out. Yeah.
Man.
But
it's wild. I think you're the only person I know who's never had it.
Yeah, I mean,
amazing.
I'm not. Yeah, like I just got really, really lucky, and took like as much precaution as I possibly could, but just got very lucky. Yeah. So they get back to their bunk, and Sejanus disappears, and Snow is reading a letter from Tigris, I believe. And we
get a little bit of a
little
piece of trivia here.
Yeah. It's it's a letter not from Tigris, it's from Pluribus. I'm sorry, guys. It's from the nightclub owner guy.
Yeah, well, I think Tigris, he mentions that he gets a letter from her as well. But
he got a letter from Tigris, and then he gets this one from Pluribus Bell, who is talking about how sorry he is that everything that's happened, and tells him a little bit about his father and High Bottom. And Pluribus is kind of like, I'm really surprised that High Bottom is like treating you so harshly. I guess they never did make up. And he wrote that I do remember towards the end they had a row of sorts, or is it a row or a row when it's used this way?
It's a row. Okay. Yeah.
And says it was very uncharacteristic of them. Casca was furious, saying he'd been drunk and the whole thing was meant to be a joke, which is like, what now? Your father said he should be grateful that he'd been doing him a favor. Your father left, but Casca stayed drinking until I closed. When I asked him what was wrong, all he could say is like moths to a flame. He was quite drunk. What, pray tell, is happening here?
Well, I'll tell you. Just kidding.
So I had wondered if there was something going on with Snow's mom, because the way Highbottom talked about her was so fucking shitty.
Oh.
I was like, maybe the mom was like a real bitch to him, or was very unpleasant, and but this, and I'm not saying the mom has anything to do with this, but when two dudes fight, I always think that there's a girl involved, even though like it doesn't have to be the case, but it's so often the case, especially in fiction. It's just an easy,
true.
It's an easy thing to do. Like it was almost like a shorthand. Instead of making like a very complicated relationship, you just say, "Oh, it was about a girl," and then everybody understands like what happened, right?
Right.
But the way like moths to a flame is such a weird thing for Dean Highbottom to say. Like, I don't know, guys. I don't have any good theories about this. I feel like I'm reading this and I'm like, this is telling me something really important. Like you should be picking up on something here, and I just don't have anything.
It's okay. It's okay. You'll get more information. So they go to dinner, and Coriolanus is talking about the hanging and the target practice idea. Sejanus isn't eating, and then finally Cory goes over and is just like, "What's the deal?" And he's like, would we have had to shoot the people at the hanging if they had like gotten more intense? Yeah. And Coriolanus says, "Oh, probably not. Just fired rounds in the air." But he's thinking that he had been worried about the same thing. And if I'm helping to kill people in the districts, how's it any better than helping to kill them in the Hunger Games? Coriolanus' instincts had been right. Sejanus was sliding into another ethical quagmire. What did you think it was going to be? I mean, what did you think you'd signed up for? I thought I could be a medic. A medic? Like a doctor? No, that would require university training. Something more basic. Something where I could help anyone who'd been injured, capital or district, when violence breaks out. At least I wouldn't do any harm. I just don't know if I could ever kill anyone, Corio. Coriolanus felt a stab of annoyance. Had Sejanus forgotten that it was his own reckless behavior that had led to Coriolanus killing Bobbin? That his selfishness had robbed his friend of the luxury of such a statement? And I really liked that, actually. Like, that was one of the first arguments from him that I was like, no, you're dead on, actually. Yeah, that's fair. Mm-hmm. Then he suppressed a laugh at the thought of old Strabo Plinth, a munitions giant with a pacifist air. He could imagine the conversations that had transpired between father and son. What a waste, he thought. What a waste of a dynasty.
Yeah, that contempt is really there. Really just like jumping off the page that Snow has for Sejanus often. And Sejanus is reacting to not just the execution, but the way the crowd sort of reacts once the woman gets carried away, Lo gets carried away. There's like a little bit of a murmuring and a little disgruntledness, but nothing really pops off. But there's like an energy of like something could happen, like if somebody just threw a match, right? And I agree. The way Coriolanus is just like, I also wondered if I could kill somebody until your bullshit put me in a situation where, guess what? I had to kill somebody. Like, but he doesn't call, like, he thinks all this, but he doesn't say it to Sejanus. He just says,
I really was a little disappointed. I thought he might call him, and I think Sejanus would have responded to that. I think he would too. Quelled, but he doesn't say it. And I was like, come on, man, that's like, it's right there.
Yeah, I think the Sejanus would have absolutely been like, oh shit, you're absolutely right. Because eventually this conversation does get to be a bit much for Snow, and he's just like, oh, for fuck's sake, dude. And Sejanus is just like, oh shit, you're right. Like, you're basically telling me to stop being
because
so
what he says is like, all of this is what wound up to us, like, getting into the arena. It wound up putting us in that place. Do you realize you're just going down the exact same road again? And apparently he hadn't thought of that. Sejanus, an overthinker in some ways, and then not a thinker at all in others.
I mean, I just add me next time. That's what we're doing. That's fair. Because I suffer from the same malady.
Who am I?
And poor Sejanus is just like, it turns out that we knew that he was a very good marksman. It's how he gets that nickname Bullseye. And it turns out he's been like underperforming on purpose. He's actually much better than anybody even realizes. And it turns out that he is not going to be able to pursue this whole idea of being a medic because there's not much need for them because there's no war happening. And he can't get leave to go train in a medical clinic because he's such a good shot. Like, the major doesn't want to give him up. He wants the major wants Sejanus to have a gun. So he's kind of boxed himself into this role unintentionally. And that's what happens for Sejanus.
I love the fact that he's like, I've been like handicapping myself. I didn't know everybody here was going to suck so bad. So I thought I was making myself look bad, and I'm still the best. Yucks. And I was like, oof.
He also makes a point to be like, not you, Coriolanus, though. I'm not talking about you. You're fine. not
Coriolanus is like, and me, it's fine. Like, just very quickly, just sort of, we don't have to play. Okay, let's both be honest about what's happening here. Yeah, me. I appreciate that even though Corio does have a significant ego, he also can be like real with himself about, this is not a strength of mine and I just accept that, Yeah,
it's funny. He can be real about it, but it has to be like something he doesn't think is necessarily important for his success. You know what I mean?
True.
Like,
yeah.
Like, I think Snow feels like that his mind, his brain, and his breeding are worth more than somebody being a good marksman. Like, anybody could just train eventually. And like, if I worked hard enough, I could probably become as good as Sejanus if I wanted to. But it's not like that important to me. So I
could
can
do
laugh.
that, but I don't want to.
Yeah. So I can laugh it off and be like, yeah, no, it's fine. I know I'm not great. But if it were something that he really valued and he wasn't good at it, I think he would be have a very different attitude about his failing. It wouldn't be funny. It wouldn't be funny that he couldn't do something if he thought that something was really important or valuable. Yeah,
I think you're right. Yeah, I really think you're right about that. But I never really considered it in those terms, and I think you've got him pegged. So, all right, they go to the Hob, and the sale of all of their stuff gets them some white liquor, which they're going to bring to the show. And then Corio is like talking to people about like, well, how are we going to get tickets? And it turns out they collect after the performance. So there's no need for them to buy a ticket ahead of time. It's going to be something that's like organized later. So he doesn't even need to worry about that money. And the stuff that he had been going to hawk for ticket money is what he winds up donating along with some of the money that they have, which I just appreciated the gesture there.
Yeah.
And we have the performance, the Covey.
Yeah, the Covey. They're all named after colors, which is very. I'm very curious about that. And I get it, but it's not their last name though, right? They have different last names, but they all have like a first name and then a color and then whatever their last name. Like Lucy's name is Baird, and we find out later on that I forget what Billy Top's name is, but it's mentioned specifically that they have a different last name. Because the rest of the girls are all cousins. But I wanted to look up Covey, because is that something that means something? Is that?
I feel like I've looked this up before, but I'll do it right now and just see. Covey, a small party or flock of birds, especially partridge. So
oh, interesting. Interesting. Huh. It's another fucking bird.
Yeah, a lot of bird stuff happening. Well, songbirds and snakes, baby. Which one do you think the snake is?
Well, if I had any doubts, it's been cleared up for me, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Funny. Oh, Suzanne, what are we going to do with you?
And he makes sure to sit at the back. I was kind of surprised initially because he actually doesn't want her to see him right away. Mm-hmm. I had really thought that he was going to like want to be front and center. But when he sits at the back, I had thought, this is what I was thinking. I had thought we were going to find out that Lucy Gray had 100% been using Coriolanus and that she was not going to see him and then was going to very affectionately greet some boy, and Coria was going to see that because she didn't know he was here. And that is not at all how it goes. But I had a real sort of like, here it comes attitude, and I was super wrong. So joke's on me, I guess. I didn't have a fully fleshed out idea of what I thought it was going to be. I will say that the lead up to him seeing her and then not seeing her felt like it dragged on for fucking ever. And it got to the point where I realized, even before like the fight broke out, I realized he wasn't going to see her. Like just the way it was dragging and dragging and dragging. And I was like, he's not going to get to talk to her tonight. And then sure enough, but we get a performance, and they are, first of all, this little girl, Maud Ivory, she's adorable. And she comes out and she like warms the crowd up and she introduces everybody and everybody comes out. And of course, Lucy is the last one. Nobody, and we mentioned this before, it felt like nobody in the barracks knew who Snow was, and nobody really knew who Lucy was. And that is continuing on where like, she is introduced as being like, she was on a Hunger Games, but before she's on stage and people are talking about it, there's no like real sense of people were like watching, you know? Yeah.
Like nobody is really watching the Hunger Games like that. Which to me is just still so wild. I know we talked about it before, but it's just, it's such a departure from the original books where it was mandatory viewing. Like half of these people could give a fuck about those games and watched it, didn't watch any of it. But Lucy finally comes on stage. She's the last one. And his reaction to seeing her, I really honestly believe that he is somebody that's like it feels real. I think he really does believe, these feelings that he has for her. And they're so, they don't go with anything else that we know about him. It's like the part of him that is like in love with Lucy Gray is almost like it's a different person. It just doesn't track with anything else. And when he's not when he's not with her or actively thinking about her, he is an entirely different person and not somebody you think would be capable of having such strong, sincere care. But right as I'm thinking that through these chapters, he does this thing where he starts talking about how she's his again. like that creeps back in. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, it might be real and
there
sincere,
it is. That's
but I
the
don't,
shit.
right? Like, it's real and sincere, but I don't think it's good. It doesn't feel healthy. Maybe he's not capable of loving someone in a healthy way because it's so much about like possession and what's his. I don't know, guys. It's just like anytime I'm ready to let myself be swept up in this romance, he does something that's so
icky
that it just like takes me right out of the romance, you know? So I don't know if as a reader, am I supposed to be rooting for them? It feels wrong to root for this romance. Like, you know, I don't know if that's the experience of other readers or not, but every time I sort of get like relaxed and feel like, oh, it's going to be so cute when they're together, he fucking, what's that just like, ew, no.
Yeah, it's something that I don't know that she intends us to root for it. I think it's meant to feel like you're meant to be conflicted about it because you know where he winds up, you know, as a person. So there's just an element of dread in it because you aren't really totally sure if it's like, does something go really badly here right away or like something, it can't go well. It absolutely can't have gone well.
Yeah.
You know, so what are we waiting for? And that I think is really
when does it happen?
She's going for.
Yeah, like you know the other shoe is going to drop. We just don't know like when it's going to drop and what it's actually going to look like when it happens, but you know it's coming. So it's a very unsettling place to be as a reader. So she performs, he sees her and is just like, oh, she's even more beautiful than I remembered. You know, look at her there. She's working the crowd the way that we know that she can. She performs a song and it is, he says, this is a song he knows. He's tapping out the beat before she even starts singing. And then they sing a couple other songs. And she sings Clementine, which really, like, I was like, oh, wait, that's a song I know.
This was a weird moment. I was really confused by this, guys, because, like, I know what she's doing, just a sort of reminder that like this is our world actually, like don't forget that this is, and I get that, but this just feels like such a bad song to do that with because it feels corny to me right away. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know why in particular, but it just, for me, I was like, you could have picked anything. That one? Okay, I guess. It would have been fun if it was like, you know, something much more modern, like in that Futurama joke where he's got, I like big butts and I cannot lie playing, and somebody comes and knocks on the door and says, can you turn your classical music down? One of my favorite jokes of that show.
Oh God, I forgot all about that. That's
classic. But yeah, so again, it's just a shame. The audiobook, I just have to fast forward a little bit through her songs. Yeah. Because he's just reading it and it's agonizing to me. And Coriolanus couldn't take his eyes off Lucy Gray's face, lit up like he'd never seen it before. That's her when she's happy, he thought. She's beautiful. Beautiful in a way anyone could see. Not just him. That could be a problem. Jealousy pricked his heart. But no, she was his girl, wasn't she? He remembered the song she'd sung in the interview about the guy who'd broken her heart and examined the covey for a likely suspect. There was only one. Oh, there was only Tan Amber with the mandolin, but there were no sparks flying between them. One of the locals, maybe. So yeah, this kind of thinking worms its way in a lot of the time when he's just in danger of being happy with her. He has to have a moment of just sort of like, or wait.
Yeah, it's like he's waiting for the other shoe to drop too. In a way, I hadn't really thought about that before, but yeah, like the way you phrase that, like right when he's starting to like be happy or feel something, it twists into this other thing. Yeah, maybe he doesn't know how to see anything or anyone outside of that lens. Like that's just the only way he knows how to be with, and it just looks different depending on the object, but ultimately it's the same behavior over and over and over again. You know, how can this thing, this person, this class, this whatever benefit me and elevate me in some fashion. And there's a moment at the end after he puts the coins and the popcorn balls in the basket, and Maud Ivory is like so tickled, she like goes up on stage and points them out to Lucy Gray, just like, hey, these guys look what they gave us, because she has no idea who Snow is, right? And that's a moment where Lucy looks in the crowd and he's like waiting, like any second she's going to see me. He makes sure that he takes himself out of the shadow so that he's like well lit. And he's worried, like, what will she do? Will she acknowledge me? And Snow gets to see the moment where Lucy Gray recognizes that he's there. He gets to, like, watch that happen on her face. And this should be a moment where I am, like normally if we were anybody but Coriolanus Snow, I would be like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Like, this is so good. Like, oh my God, he saw her, she saw him, she's, you know what I mean? And instead I was just like, oh dear. She looks genuinely, sincerely happy to see him, and she's so shocked that he's there. She's like in disbelief, and she starts singing the song that she sang to him from the zoo, and he's so emotional. Right. His eyes start to tear up, and she's singing this song about her true love, and he is just like, yep, that's me. She's singing about me. I'm her true love. How about that? And then he thinks, and I saved her life. Like that one little line. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, he can't help himself.
He just always out here ruining everything.
Yeah, it really is. It really, really is. And so then it's like there's just this build up of them getting to be closer together and trying to move through the crowd, and then fucking Billy comes in, all drunk, with the mayor's daughter behind him, and Coriolanus knows immediately that's the guy. That's the guy from the fucking song. That's my competition, you know.
I want to know what you think happened here.
Between Billy and
Lucy Gray and Billy, because like later on she's yelling at him, and it's like still not fully clear. It's basically like, you and I were a thing. You were working for her and like giving her piano lessons, but then you fell for her, and she put my name in for the reaping to get rid of me, but you're still with her, so it doesn't seem like you fucking care that she's capable of that, right? Is that like the essence of it?
That's what I took from it. That he traded in their sort of shabby lifestyle for somebody who has a lot more to offer as far as comforts and resources and, like, you know, the finer things in District 12. At least that's the accusation. The weirdness with Sejanus suggests that it's possible, and this is me, I'm about to really like tinfoil hat some shit. It's possible that this sort of fake love affair with the mayor's daughter is really a way for Billy to get information. Like maybe Billy is connected to some sort of underground rebel situation, and that the mayor's daughter, what's her name, Mayfair? Is that her first name or her last name? Well, whatever.
That's her last name. Yeah.
She did the thing about getting rid of Lucy Gray on her own, and that it was out of Billy's hands, and there was nothing he could do about it one way or the other. And never expected Lucy Gray to live, so why blow his cover for a girl that's basically dead, right? And then Lucy Gray comes back when she wasn't supposed to have survived, because who would have imagined she would have? And now Billy is in this situation where it looks like he's thrown in with this lot, you know, the mayor's daughter, and everybody has turned their back on him, and he can't tell anybody what his real deal is. But I've got zero evidence for any of that. But that's the only way I can think of. Though. That's the only thing I can think of that would be redeeming, because otherwise it is exactly what Lucy and the rest of the covey suspect, which is he sacrificed Lucy for a better situation for himself. And that's all there is to it. And this girl was jealous, so she got rid of her competition, and Billy was like, I don't give a fuck either way. But him turning up drunk seems like that's a kind of I'm also reading a lot into this, but you know how sometimes you get a feeling that somebody's just drunk because they're always drunk, like with Hey Mitch, you know, you're just like, oh, that's just what he does. It doesn't, I'm not sure that's what Billy is. I don't know if Billy is just like the town drunk. It didn't feel that way. Nobody really accused
it almost
him of
feels
that.
For me like he's becoming that, maybe, but he wasn't before.
And
I don't know.
If he has an amount of guilt about what happened to Lucy, that could drive somebody to drinking, you know, if he feels guilty about what he did or what he let happen. And, you know, he can't tell anybody the truth about what's going on. So he's turning to drink. And that's why he's so angry. But I don't know. That's all wild speculation on my part. But he comes in, and the whole covey is just like, you don't go here no more. You just get out of here. Go on, get. And the different members of the covey are all yelling at him, and Billy is talking about, you all need me. You sound terrible without me.
I can't get over that. That's the angle he's deciding to take. He's just like, you're thin. Somebody needs to fill up this weird, empty, gaping space that is left behind. Haven't found anybody to fill it. I'm right here, and you're weak. Y'all sound weak. And I'm just like, this isn't coming in and just being like,
this is not how to get back. You know,
like this angle.
That's not how to get back in good, right? That's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
And he calls out one of the members specifically. He calls out this kid, Clerk Carmine, and is like, you too? Is that how you feel? And Snow is just like, they look like there's a resemblance. And we do find out that they're actually brothers. So this is family turning his back on Billy, which is like, tells you how serious this infraction was, how serious they have taken what he did, and how firmly they all believe he sacrificed Lucy Gray. and they're just going to stand behind her. And this one kid is willing to turn his back on his brother. And then like this changes the whole mood in the Hob, and the peacekeepers start trying to usher people out, and somebody goes to grab Billy, and Billy like swings or shoves, and then everything flips. And these men who had all been like, well, not just men, but these people who had been drinking together and enjoying the music, sharing a bottle, having a good time, turns on the dime. And all of a sudden, everybody knows exactly what side they're on. You know, peacekeeper versus like district people. And then the fucking lights go out, which could not have been
never a good thing.
Like the worst thing that could happen in this moment. The fucking lights go out, and then it's just like a fucking melee. It's every man for himself. And yeah, they're all fighting, and then Snow is just like fighting for his life, and he's thinking to himself, God damn it, like here I am again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really did enjoy that. He's just like, well, I still don't know that I agree with her, but Dr. Gall, that's 2 points for you. So
right.
Don't like it.
Here was naked humanity, and here again, he was part of it, and he does not care for any of this. He does not care to be a part of humanity like this. That's mankind in its natural state. That's humanity undressed. Of course, this inspires him later on to write that letter to her, and he draws on this specific experience when he writes Dr. Gall later on about how little it took, because it was really nothing. It took nothing. Yeah. To have them.
It was just like the sense of potentially something could be had. Nothing had happened yet.
Yep.
But yeah.
And then just the small physicality of Billy shoving the peacekeeper away. Like I said, he swung. He didn't even swing. He just kind of shoves him like away. That little hint of violence is all it took to enact actual violence. Like, yeah. And that's really like often that's the case, right? Like we pretend that we're so civilized, but we really aren't. You know, we're all just like a what is that expression? Like a hair trigger. You know, like it doesn't take as much as we like to think it would take to push a person over the edge. Yeah. Like you always think it's got to be some big dramatic occurrence that's got to happen to push somebody past their limit. It very rarely is a big dramatic thing. You know, it's more often than not, it's going to be the last straw. And the last straw is usually like so pitiful and petty, and it'll just fucking send you spiraling out of control. She says from personal experience, but yeah. And then the funniest thing about this whole thing is that they make peacekeepers escort the mayor's daughter home, Mayfair home, and like nobody really wants to do it. She doesn't want them to do it, and she's very salty about the whole thing. And they get her back to her house as she's bitching the whole way. And when she gets home, she just like runs away into the house, and they're all like, do we knock? Do we tell the mayor that she's home? And somebody is like, nah, he always finds a way to make it our fault. Nobody feels like a lecture right now. So they just turn around and go home.
I did like that a lot. Like just that little peek into what the relationship is like and how this guy is just out here making excuses for her. Like he clearly was triumphant about Lucy Gray getting picked. So he was in on whatever setup that became. And I don't know if he knew the reality of why his daughter wanted this, if she told him the truth or not. She may not have, you know, but either way, he's on her side, and we have seen that more than once. So,
yeah, there's some.
He doesn't seem like a great guy.
There's like some like an implication later on that she has not told her father who she's running around with, because that would just be so like beneath her. Like Billy is like trash as far as her father would be concerned. And fucking Coriolanus has this moment where they're out. Mayfair has gone into the house. The peacekeepers are standing around trying to figure out like if they're going to call the mayor or just go home. It's very, very dark. Coriolanus has mentioned that as well. Like walking through the district is not like walking through the Capitol. And then I guess a light goes on in Mayfair's bedroom, and the way the window is positioned with the curtains drawn, it shines a light on Billy, who has apparently sort of like followed them back to the house, or maybe he's just on his way there anyway. And nobody sees him but Snow. And he starts to think like, I could just fucking turn him in. I could just be like, hey guys, look who's standing there. And he starts wondering, like, should I say something? Like, if I say something, how would Lucy Gray react? Like, they clearly don't fuck with Billy. But maybe if I turn him in, that will make him like a martyr, and they'll be really sympathetic to him and be mad at me. Or maybe they'd be really happy and be glad that he's like out of their hair. And he's trying to go through the math of what decision works out best for him, because that's how he functions.
Always. Yep.
That the moment ends up passing and there's nothing to really be done about it.
Yeah, I feel like not doing anything was the right call, because it's just sort of the way things went at the concert, where everybody is on the same side as long as it's not the peacekeeper side. And if he were to turn it, then people might be able to feel a little bit more supportive and united behind him. So, yeah. Yeah, I think that was the right call. But also, I understand wanting that immediate satisfaction very much. So, let's see. I'm trying to find the spot because I was a little bit behind you. Here it is. As they walked back, Coriolanus wondered about his own odds of seeing the Capitol again. Before Sejanus came, he'd thought they were 0. But if he could return as an officer, maybe even a war hero, things might be different. Of course, then he'd need a war to excel in, just as Sejanus needed one in order to be a medic. And I thought that was interesting, that like the both of them are how much war gives people purpose a lot of the time, and like
purpose and an opportunity to for glory, right? An opportunity to rise and be elevated amongst your peers, and a chance to make a name for yourself. It's funny too, the two motivations, you know. Sejanus needs a war so that he can help people, and Snow needs a war so he can help himself. So
that he can hurt people, probably. You know, the exact opposite. So they go to bed, and he's thinking about how frustrated he is at not getting to see her after all this build up. But then Sejanus says, well, maybe she'll come see you here. And Coriolanus is instantly like, that probably wouldn't look good, actually.
Right.
Like, people might see me as a spy or a sympathizer. I don't think I want that.
Yeah.
And as soon as he starts to be like, did you have plans? Sejanus is like, she lives in the place called the Seam near the woods. I asked one of the miners last night. Don't worry. He was too drunk to remember. So I love that Sejanus is just like wingmanning him really hard right now.
Yeah.
And didn't even have to be asked. He just is already ahead of the game.
Just out there doing the work. I just want to mention
Good
too
boy.
that when Snow gets back, you know, finally it's time for bed, he's thinking about how the evening went and lamenting that he didn't get a chance to be with Lucy, like you mentioned. But he also is just like, and then that fucking Billy showed up and ruined everything. But then, you know what? I sure did like how everybody rejected him, and then says it confirmed that Lucy Gray belonged to him. Like, once again, you got to put that in there. You can't think of her at all without reassuring himself that she's his. And it's the kind of, I don't know. Ugh. I don't know, y'all. It's so gross. It's so gross.
It is.
So yeah, so they make plans to go to the scene the next day, and Snow is thinking about how he doesn't want to show up empty-handed. So he gets a bag of ice, and that's going to be
so weird.
It's right. It's so weird. But then once it comes into play, I was like, oh, that's fucking genius, because everybody's just like, ice. This is impossible. Like, it's hard for me to imagine ice being of value. You know, like, we just sort of take it for granted the way we take water for granted, which we're gonna fucking learn pretty soon about that shit. But
don't need to talk about that. I'm good.
But yeah, like the idea of taking ice, I was like, you're going to do what? First of all, it's going to be all melted by the time you get to wherever you're going, sir. Like, if it's as hot and humid as you've described. But it ends up being like ice and bread they show up with. And that's like Christmas morning when they get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciated seeing it in action, because, like, at first when he sees her and they kiss, it's described how he just drops it on the ground. And I was like, oh, I thought he was just like, screw this ice, who cares? And he was just going to forget about it. And I was sort of, well, but you went through all this trouble. Like, can we just give him his sheep back? He came all this way. But yeah, I was glad that he actually scoops it all back up again and is like, wait. Actually, this is a pretty good thing here. Pay attention. So yeah, it's so funny. They walk and he, like, rapidly reaches this point where he's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yep. He's like, this is a bad idea. I don't think we're going in the right way. He's very uncomfortable. It's a lot of walking. Just the moving through the district and into the seam is very uncomfortable for him. Like, the sort of surroundings, seeing what the town looks like, seeing what the people look like. Nobody is bothering them. No one's really paying attention to them, but he notes that it feels sort of like hostile. You know, there's just sort of like he's just very uncomfortable. He's out of his element. Feels very exposed, feels very vulnerable, and doesn't want to do this anymore. And considering the night they had before, it's not completely unfounded for him to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, like, they could be jumped. You know, if a gang of dudes wanted to like, hey, what are you doing here? It's not like him and Sejanus are armed or, you know, can protect themselves in any real way. But Sejanus is just like, really, dude? I think we're in the right direction. Like, just look right over there. We're almost there.
Yeah, I really liked the fact that we get to see immediately. He's talking about how much he loves her and wants to do things for her and meet her again. But, like, whenever there's the slightest inconvenience about it, it really feels like he sort of begins to rethink things. And it's just so inconsistent, you know? Yep. And even just like, oh, she could come see me, but then, well, that might make me look like a spy. I don't know. And just the fact that eventually he even gets to a point where he's just following Sejanus. He's not even like spearheading this, and only keeps going because Sejanus is going. Like,
he starts doubting his feelings for Lucy. He says, maybe he was not cut out to be a lover. Maybe he was more of a loner at heart. Coriolanus Snow, more loner than lover. Like just a page ago, sir, you were like proclaiming that she belonged to you. And now at the slightest hint of inconvenience or obstacle, you're ready to throw the towel in and deciding that you should live a life of solitude and you're not cut out to be a partner, which I think actually might be correct. But you have a granddaughter, so I guess you figured it out at some point.
You know what? Does he have a granddaughter? Yeah, he does in the book, because that's what they're proposing with the last Hunger Games. Yeah, so he's just so... It's very interesting because, like, he thinks to himself at one point that it has to be something because there are all these amazing girls in the district and he's never felt anything toward any of them. Mm-hmm. So it's gotta be something. And it's, for me, just like, I think you just are so used to feeling better than everybody that you run across someone who doesn't treat you that way and is like, and that needs you, that you feel like you've got a really distinct power over. Mm-hmm. And that's the what's doing it for you, you know? But I don't know.
He says two things too. One is, as he's following Sejanus' lead, as you pointed out, Snow is like, he's going to get tired. And then we'll just go home.
Exactly.
And then
he is fully like, I'm relying on this guy throwing the towel in, so I'll just bide my time.
And then he starts wondering if everybody in his entire life has been wrong about him. He says he'd never been motivated by love or ambition, only a desire to get his prize and a nice, quiet, bureaucratic job pushing papers around. Like this whole idea that I'm going to be a great person, that I'm going to be president, like the grandmam said, and like I was destined for greatness. Maybe they were all wrong, and I'm really like just a boring paper pusher with like nothing to offer the world.
Yeah.
And he says, cowardly, talking about himself, cowardly, and he's reaching for something else. And he thinks to himself, what did Highbottom call her? He doesn't even say mom. He says, and what did Dean Highbottom call her? Oh, yes, vapid. Vapid like his mother. What a disappointment he'd have been to his father. All because this is a little walk that's taking some time. And it's hot and there's gnats flying around. Like, this is, I mean, he just... Yeah. But then right in the middle of this sort of pity party that he's throwing in his brain, Sejanus hears someone singing, and it's Maud singing, and they follow her voice. She's singing the Clementine song, and they get up to her, and she sees them, and she knows immediately, like, oh, you're looking for Lucy Gray, because she recognizes Snow. She goes, you're her friend from the Capitol. The one who introduced her on the television. Only you look different now. You're near bald because I forgot he had his head shaved when he joined the Peacekeepers. That comes up later.
Yeah.
Too. So yeah, she takes him right in, and Lucy is not home. Lucy is off a little bit. So Maud takes them to where she is. With Seamus. And fucking... he gets all jealous. Seamus. Fuck is that?
My God. It's so like, it's just so quick. It's so quick. Like, it betrays a real like insecurity as well that is unusual for him. So the whole thing just feels strange. But
yeah,
Seamus is a goat.
Yeah, Snow is, so I almost wanted to say he's someone that gets what he wants all the time, but that's not 100% accurate. Like, there's a lot of things that he wants, like more money, right? For instance, for his family. He can't just get that, but he's the kind of person that, once he puts his mind to something, he gets it with relative ease, or what it comes easy to him, right? To do well in school, to be popular, to be well liked, to impress his teachers, and and he understands why he wants those things. I think that's the most important thing. He understands why he wants those things. Those things make sense to him to want. He needs them to get where he wants to be. So Lucy Gray comes into his world and he wants her. And as long as she's in the games, he can justify wanting her because her success is so tied to his success. Right?
Yeah.
But now that's gone and he still wants her. And I don't think he's ever wanted something that he didn't understand how he could use at the same time. Like, and so now he wants this thing. He wants this person who doesn't benefit him in any tangible way anymore. And yet he still wants her. And he is so insecure around that because that's just not something he's ever had to really deal with before. He doesn't know like what to make of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's like bouncing all over the place. Because he doesn't know, well, because he's never really loved someone outside of his immediate family.
Yeah.
And this is the closest he's come. And we already talked about whether we think this is like a healthy love. I don't think it is. But it's like the closest approximation to being in
healthy
love.
With Snow.
It's like the closest he's capable of getting, it feels like. And he is so unsettled by it. It's like the only time he's not absolutely sure of himself. So he does all of these like mental gymnastics to try to make himself feel more in control. And it like manifests in this obsession of like, well, she belongs to me. That's like his exerting control, you know?
Yeah.
Cause he's gotta know.
Yeah. And it's like, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, he's gotta know that she is not the kind of woman that would be happy belonging to someone in the way that he experiences that, you know? He's got to know that about her, right?
Interesting.
He's got to know that she's not like the kind of person that would want to be controlled that way. She's just too independent. He's got to see that, right?
I don't know. Like, she was willing to accept his direction in the games. So
yeah,
I could see him taking that as her being willing to accept, you know what I mean? Like, I could see him not really understanding how different that situation made their relationship.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
That's an interesting thought.
That may just be my, just a, you know, pull it out of my ass guess, but
yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about, whether or not he understands the dynamic shift.
And there's even like when Maud is showing him to where Lucy Gray is, she grabs him by the hand and it says, with no younger siblings or other relatives, Coriolanus had little experience with kids, but it made him feel special the way she'd attached herself to him, the little cool hand pressed trustingly in his. So even here, it's just like, oh yeah, she made me feel special. Yeah, you are so easy, actually, sir. All that I require is undying admiration for the rest of time. That's it. It's not a big deal.
Always, at every moment. I love this bit too when he gives them the ice cubes and the bread, and she says something about this is, I think Maud's still talking. She says ice is rare, like flowers in wintertime. And he says, you know, my grandma grows roses on the roof. And she is like, first she says, yeah, Lucy said you smell like roses. And then she's like, on the roof, that's a silly place for flowers. Don't they slide off because of the way the houses are built where they live? And there's a mention of the house, the whole house they live in seeming like it's like on an angle. like it's going to fall over at any time.
Yep.
I thought that was a really cute little moment.
Yeah, agreed.
And she
anytime that somebody is able to write accurately how kids talk and the way they think, I always really appreciate it, because I forget sometimes how black and white a lot of my understanding of stuff was as a kid. And then they'll throw something like that and I'm like, oh yeah, like you never saw a flat roof. Why would you ever?
How would you know?
Course,
how would you know?
Yeah.
Maud also says, she tells Snow, I like you. And because she says, are you going to stay here? And he's like, yeah, that's the plan. She goes, I'm glad I like you. And that will make her happy. Which should have been, I would have thought, we would have immediately got Snow's reaction to hearing Maud say that. Like, I thought we would go directly into him having sort of a, either being reassured or something, right? Especially coming on the heels of the way he was feeling when he wasn't sure they were going to get to the house and he was like tired and ready to go home. But there's nothing. She says that. No. And then the next thing you know, we're kind of at the meadow and there's talk of Seamus. Oh my God, Seamus. Who was Seamus? Another member of the Covey? Or had he misread Billy Top and Seamus was the lover? Like,
sir, I beg you, get a hold of yourself.
Unhinged that fast.
Yeah.
That fast. Just, again, so insecure around Lucy Gray and his relationship to Lucy and what she is to him and what he is to her. Really, that's the key. Like, what is she to him? But then, yeah, Seamus is the goat, and it's no need to panic. We're just trying to make some fucking butter. Calm down. And then Sejanus and Maud take a little bit of a walk so that Coriolanus and Lucy Gray can have a private moment. And he comes up on her and she's singing a song that we know, which I don't think we've seen her sing before because she appears to be writing it. I think in this moment, she's not just singing a song that exists. She's writing the "Are You Coming to the Tree" song.
Yeah.
And
the hanging tree.
So that was kind of cool. For that to make an appearance and to find out that Snow is listening to her sing and he's like, is this about hanging? Is this about Arlo? And then he's like, yeah, it has to be, because when else have you ever heard a dead man call out for his love to flee? That's got to be it. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. I know I've kind of like eye rolled a couple of different things that have been like too on the nose from the other books. But this I really appreciated. I like this.
Yeah, I agree. And it just is interesting that he actually saw and was there for the event that caused this song to be written. And this song being sung by Katniss goes viral the way that it does. It's just a weird sort of connection there that it doesn't feel so irritating.
Right.
He just hated Mockingjays and he couldn't explain it. And I was just like, yeah, all right, calm down. So they kiss and it's actually like a really nice little moment.
Yeah, this is a wonderful little reunion.
Yeah, it really is. I had been so suspicious, you guys. So the fact that this really did go as well as it had, there was even a part of me that was like, was she actually happy to see him, or did somebody turn the lights out so that they could bail without him being able to talk to her? Like, I was just so ready to like believe the worst, and it turns out it's just what it looked like, and that I could just also calm down,
also relax
to myself. But yeah,
she seems like genuinely over the moon that he's here. She can't believe that he would come, and she says, I hoped you would, but I didn't know. The odds didn't seem to be in my favor. They go sit under the tree. He pulls the ice out. They enjoy that. And he asked her, like, tell me everything, everything that I didn't get to see. And she tells him what it was like for her hiding with Jessup, who was getting more and more sick. We find out that Reaper was also rabid, but just in the earlier stages.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah. And it would sort of, I guess, explain, well, I don't know if it explains his behavior or not. I guess it's meant to. I really don't know enough about.
You mean with him like gathering the bodies and everything?
Well, like it like I want to say it explains why he wasn't like taking advantage of the water that was being dropped in, but we see him going to the puddle, right? So it's not that he was like adverse to water. It doesn't explain why he wasn't eating the food, and the thing about the bodies, like I don't know. Only thing I know about rabies really is that it like fucks with your brain and makes you like, I don't know, I don't want to say crazy, but it causes some sort of cognitive impairment, and you become, I think, aggressive and violent. And we didn't really see any of that behavior in Reaper. So yeah, I don't know what the early stages look like. She says that she considered poisoning him to like be putting him out of his misery.
Or at least saving him from having to go through the thing eventually. But yeah, I thought that was a really interesting little reveal. The rabies thing is such a weird addition. I really want to ask the author about this and see, like, was this based on a thing that you like heard about that kind of caught your fancy, or did you just know that like sometimes post-war can be a time where illnesses become like really rampant and decided to just pick one, but yeah,
I mean, I'm trying to think of like other kind of illnesses that impact your like ability to think, like your brain function, that are communicable. And the only other one I can think of is like a sexually transmitted disease, and that probably wouldn't work for the story. Like I know syphilis like does your brain dirty.
Yeah. I also think that like rabies is something that you can visually see what's happening very easily on a screen for an event like the Hunger Games. So it's probably just the best choice for like the translation of on-screen diagnosis,
that makes sense too. Yeah. But it's a weird choice. I guess maybe because it just doesn't like. The last time rabies came up in fiction for me was Cujo. Like I can't. Oh my
god! I never saw Cujo.
Oh god! It was terrifying as a kid when I watched it. I haven't watched it in like 30 years, but I did see some pictures recently on the internet, and like the dog is like a guy in a dog costume, but like but I don't have any memory of ever being like that's anything but like a real fucking dog when you're watching the movie.
My god, I had no idea. What? Yeah, hold on.
There's like I'm almost positive. I think there's like stills going around of like the guy, and he's like in a giant dog costume. I hope I'm not just making that up. Please tell me you found it that fast.
It looks like a real dog. This dog is so cute. I'm sure like in action, it's terrifying, but the dog himself is just like, oh, look at him. He needs a little bath with all that blood. Come here, buddy. Because he is very blood covered in every image. So
yeah, here's one. Here's a picture. I'm going to send it to you real quick.
Yes, please.
Of this guy in this fucking outfit with this giant dog head. I hope that works for you. Yeah. And so then once I saw that, I'm like, I can never watch the movie again. Like, I can't go back. I can't unsee this now. So that movie is dead to me.
Oh my god, It's only just showing. It's not even showing me the preview. Come on, Google.
Oh,
My God.
Did it work? Okay, you got it.
Yep.
I can tell you got it.
That is hilarious. Man, I wonder when
Right?
they used. It must be when the dog's like trying to get through the window of the car and stuff. Like when the dog needed to be attempting to get into certain areas.
Y'all, why is there a dog
so he's like
barking
a little
outside my
hidden.
house right now?
Oh my God, that dog is like, don't you talk shit about our hero Cujo.
There's like there's never. That was so weird. The timing on that.
Oh man. Anyway, okay. Focus. So there's a really weird it's such a small thing, but I just thought it was strange. So she says, "Sure is nice to have ice this time of year, a luxury in summer and a curse in winter. Can't you just ignore it?" asked Coriolanus. "Not around here. In January, our pipes froze and we had to melt down ice chunks for water on the stove. Can't you just ignore it?"
That's a weird thing, right?
What kind of question is that? I don't even get what he means. Can't you just ignore the weather? You see how they live. What do you even mean?
I mean, it's a weird thing, too, because we know from his own personal life that they had to burn some of their furniture to keep warm. So it's a weird, like, what is he not understanding about how wintertime works?
Yeah, I don't get this, you guys. I'm real curious if anybody out there is sort of like, well, I think what he meant was, because I stopped and like reread that and was thinking I must have got that wrong. And no, that's what he says. And it just, it feels like he's asking a totally different question. But then she just replies like, no, this is why we can't just ignore winter. And I was like, oh, that she's taking it that he is asking that. So I guess. Yeah, it just felt really strange. So she brings him inside to meet the family. And before they even really get a chance to like meet him, we have, I think Tan Amber, is the one who comes in and is like, "Lucy Gray, he's making trouble again." "You let him in?" "No, said he just wanted the rest of his stuff. We threw it out back," said Barbe Ajour, her arms crossed in disapproval. "So what's the problem?" "That." Still in tow, Coriolanus followed Lucy Gray and looked into the backyard. Maud Ivory wriggled in between them. "Sejanus is supposed to be helping me with the nuts." Billy Tope knelt on the ground, a pile of clothes and a few books beside him. And they're, really in like intense conversation here. And Corio is just watching this like, oh God, what is he doing now? Like there's a real sense of this fucking guy. Mm-hmm. And
he says the sight of him in what he now considered his territory. So now Lucy Gray's family and where she lives is Snow's territory.
How fast that fucking happened. Unhinged.
Yep.
Okay, that is bananas that he has already gotten here. What is happening?
Yeah, it's wild.
You didn't even get a chance to speak to anybody in the room yet. Like, he led you here. You followed him because you couldn't be bothered. Like, what?
Yeah, it's wild. And he's looking at them like, what the fuck could they even be talking about? And then he has this really flippant remark, like this thought, maybe they found mutual grievance, like how their families didn't understand them to whine about. Sir, Sejanus just got you to your supposed love of your life. He got the information about where to find her, led you to her, and this is what you're thinking? This is how you think of him?
This is how you repay me? Yeah. Very
and then
much
Snow
so.
tells the family, well, if you guys are worried about Sejanus, he's fine. He talks to anybody. And Snow is trying to figure out what they're drawing. And Barb says, looks like he's giving directions. And if I'm right, your friend needs to go home. That's ominous.
Yeah.
So Lucy Gray goes
Yeah,
outside.
don't rub that.
I'll take care of it. And she tells Snow, you don't have to deal with all of my baggage, referring to Billy.
Mm-hmm.
And Snow is just like, nah, I got it. And he goes out and can't really make out everything. And Billy, once they realize that Snow is out there, because he's able to kind of sneak up on them because they're so fucking focused on what they're talking about. But the minute they realize he's there, Billy like smudges the picture. But Snow has already seen what the image is, and it's a map of the base, of the Peacekeeper base.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. And I kind of thought that he might just like completely keep this to himself. But later on, he's just like, so, buddy. And he just drops it. And I love that Sejanus is like a little impressed. Like he was against his own will. He's just like, wow, you really do fucking see everything, huh? But yeah, so without Barbajour's tip-off, Coriolanus might have been clueless, but as it was, he recognized the image almost immediately. Sejanus, startled in what Coriolanus couldn't help thinking was a guilty manner, getting rapidly to his feet as he brushed the dust off from his uniform. And Billy Tope is just like, oh, you're finally going to talk to me. And this is when we get the, there's no walking this back. You know I didn't try and kill you. I know you're still running with the girl that did. Here you made yourself right at home at the mayor's. And who sent me over there in the first place? Makes me sick how you're playing the kids. Poor Lucy Gray, poor Lamb. They're not stupid. They want you gone too. Where exactly am I supposed to go? Before Coriolanus could intervene, Lucy Gray sank her teeth into Billy Tope's hand, causing him to yelp and release her because he had grabbed her wrist. Mm-hmm. I love this, that she just literally bites him.
Yeah. Before Snow can even like do anything, he doesn't have to do anything because she just takes care of her fucking self. And this is what I mean. And I this is why I love what your point earlier about Snow, not maybe recognizing the differences between a Lucy Gray that's at the mercy of the Capitol and Hunger Games, and a Lucy Gray at home, and how she takes care of herself and like what she's willing to do. She says, after she bites him, he lets her go. She says, Billy says to her, it doesn't look like you're so lonely either. Your fancy man from the Capitol chased you all the way down here. Well, he's got a few surprises waiting for him, which again, ominous. Doesn't sound great.
Yeah, I was sort of like, what's that mean though? Why aren't you asking, Corio? What's going on?
Corio doesn't ask anything. I already know all about you, which he doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't.
He does
but
not.
Saying that makes him feel like he's got some power in the situation, which he is at least aware of. Like he's thinking to himself, I really don't know anything, but saying it makes me feel better.
This is so fascinating to me because like, I don't think of this sort of thing in the moment as being a power play, just being like, oh, I know all about you. I would think it was just a statement, but it does work that way as a power play. Like it does actually kind of probably make people stop and be like, what does he know? How much did she tell him? Like, and it's just interesting to me, like how sort of a babe in the woods I am in that sort of thing, because I just never had to really roll in circles that needed that kind of like cutthroat vibe.
Right.
And
right.
I just like those bits of reveal of like Coriolanus and just the way his brain works. And I know probably to a degree, everybody in the Capitol, his age with his ambition is going to have some of this, but he's just really zeroed in on it,
Yeah. And he's been doing this sort of masquerading for so long that it's like second nature to him. It's instinct at this point, That's that very that idea that never let them see you sweat temperament that some people have,
Mm-hmm.
where they're just like, no matter what you say or do, I'm never going to give you the satisfaction of knowing that you've rattled me. And he is just very, very, very good at it. But Billy laughs in his face, a disbelieving laugh, it's written as, and says, me, I'm the rosebud in that dung heap, which is a wild thing to say.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. Thank you very much.
And
I don't know how to tell you this, buddy, but a rosebud that's been in a dung heap isn't worth anything either.
I mean, right? It's like, it's not saying what you think it's saying, sir.
Yeah, no.
But, and Billy kind of, when he does get ready to leave, he sort of tosses this thing out at Snow. He's like, all right, fine. You'll learn soon enough, and then stalks off. And Lucy says, if you want to run, now's the time. Like, if you want to, like, bail out of whatever this is that we're doing, like, this is the time to fucking do it.
Yeah.
And Snow says, I don't want to run, and then thinks to himself, like, the exchange had been unsettling for him, though. And without any sort of provocation, Lucy then starts sort of explaining / defending herself against whatever implications and accusations Billy is making about her and her character. And she says, he's a liar and a louse. Yeah, I flirt with anybody, but that's part of my job, which this wasn't even on the table. But
this, I was like, why are you saying all, like, you're having an argument that was never brought up, and it just feels like she's confessing when she says this out of nowhere. And yeah, I'm pretty sure she is, because like she follows it up with like, and what if I did, you know? So I was like, okay.
Yep. Like, what would have been better? Should I have just let everybody starve? And she says, neither of us would have let that happen, no matter what it took. So she says, neither of us, which sort of sounds like her and the other woman.
Yeah,
Barb,
I think so.
Right? Or she could be talking about Billy, because then she says, only he's got a different set of rules for him than for me. So I was like, first I thought she was talking about her and Barb, because this conversation makes Snow remember the conversation he had with Tigress about what she had done, or maybe would have been willing to do to save her family. But I think Lucy is talking about her and Billy, and that neither of them would have ever let Maud starve, and they both would do anything. And the things that he did, she says he's got a different set of rules for him than for me, like always. What makes him a victim makes me trash. So that sounds like they both engaged in some type of behavior, whatever it is, whether it's her, you know, flirting with people for goods and services and money, or even selling herself for money. And then whatever shenanigans Billy got into, which maybe he was sent to woo. Maybe he wasn't part of any kind of rebel thing and undercover with Mayfair. Maybe he was supposed to be conning her, like you know, playing nice with her in order to get access to food or money or something in order to help feed the family. And then maybe Mayfair, I won't say misread it, because if he's playing it, then she read it correctly. She was responding to whatever he was doing, and then caught feelings, and then that's why she ended up having Lucy Gray reaped. And so basically Lucy Gray is calling Billy a hypocrite. Like, it's okay for him to do it, but when I do the same thing, I'm trash and low key a whore, even though those words aren't used here, but it sounds like that's what she's sort of implying. So she says, I sent him over there to pick up money teaching piano, and the next thing I know, her daddy's calling out my name in the reaping. So yeah, he gets sent there to make extra money, playing the piano. I'm doing air quotes. You guys can't see it, but I forgot because we're on camera recording.
Indeed.
But yeah, maybe he used the piano playing as like an in to get even more out of the Mayfairs or out of this girl Mayfair. And it just went out of control. Like this girl ends up doing this really treacherous thing that nobody saw coming. And they're blaming Billy for this girl's choice because he apparently stayed with her after it was done instead of going home to the Coveys and like sort of telling her, I never want to see you again because what you did was so awful, which is probably what he should have done. Right.
Agree. Yes. Yeah. So okay. We have got to pick up our pace here. Okay. As usual. Mm-hmm. How far are we into this at this point? 1 hour and 36 minutes. Mm-hmm. And what chapter are we on? Currently covering, like talking about, we are on chapter 25.
All right.
Okay. So there's the, moments of all of them like eating and there not being enough food. And Barbazur being like, eat a handful of your nuts, they'll feed us at the wedding, which Coriolanus realizes he had been planning on getting to spend the whole day with her, but they've got an engagement. And she is like, sorry to see you off so soon, but this is how we earn our bread. The butcher's daughter is getting hitched, and we need to make a good impression. People with money to hire us will be there. You could wait and walk us over, I guess, but that might start people gossiping. He finished for her. Glad she had been the first to suggest it. Probably best if we keep this between us. When can I see you again? So she's thinking like, well, I'm hoping they'll let us do the hob again. I don't know after what happened, but we'll see. And then he's walking back with Sejanus and is just like, oh, so the base. And Sejanus tells him, I've always noticed you watching other people and pretending you weren't. And he's like, yeah. Stop changing the subject. What does he want with the base? What's the deal? And he mentions the girl Lil is locked up there. And Corio's like, so what, do they want to break her out? And he's like, no, they just want to talk to her and make sure she's okay. And Corio's like, and you said you'd help. And he said, I made no promises, but if I'm near the guardhouse, maybe I can find something out. Her family's frantic. Oh, wonderful. Fantastic. So now you're a rebel informant. Coriolanus took off down the road. I thought you were letting the whole rebel thing go. I can't, all right? It's part of who I am. And you're the one who said I could help the people in the districts if I agreed to leave the arena. I believe I said you could fight for the tributes, meaning you might be able to procure more humane conditions for them. Humane conditions, Sejanus burst out. They're being forced to murder each other. And the tributes are from the districts too, so I don't really see a distinction. It's a tiny thing, Corio, to check up on this girl. Clearly, it isn't. Not to Billy Tope anyway, or why did he wipe out that map so fast? Because he knows what he's asking. He knows what he's making you a collaborator, and do you know what happens to collaborators? I just thought, no, Sejanus, you're not thinking at all. And even worse, you're falling in with people who barely seem capable of thought. Billy Tope? What's his stake in this anyway? Money? Because to hear Lucy Gray talk, the Covey aren't rebels or capital. They're pretty much set on hanging on to their own identity. I don't know. He said he was asking for a friend. A friend. A friend of old Arlo who set the explosions in the mines? There was a piece of brilliant plotting. What possible result could he have been hoping for? They have no resources, nothing that would allow them to re-engage in a war, and in the meantime, they're biting the hand that feeds them, because how will they eat here in 12 without those mines? They're not exactly bubbling over with options. What sort of strategy was that? A desperate one. But look around. How long can you expect them to go on like this? They lost the war. A war they started. They took that risk. This is the price they pay.
Yeah.
Sejanus looked about as if unsure which direction to go and then slumped down on a broken wall along the road.
Yeah. This outburst towards the end when Sejanus is like asking for empathy from Coriolanus to like look around. Coriolanus remembers the war and is filled with such hatred. You know, it just like bubbles up out of him. And then, poor Sejanus, do you think that I've committed treason? Not quite yet, Coriolanus said with half a smile. Yeah. And Coriolanus is just starting to think about like how this conversation is probably mimicking hundreds of conversations that Sejanus and his father had over the years. And Sejanus says, well, Dr. Gall does. And that's when we find out how Sejanus ends up where he is here, that his dad had to, it says that everyone knows that she's really in charge. We went to see Dr. Gall. He asked if I might be given a chance that you were to sign up for the Peacekeepers. And Snow is like, I thought that would be automatic if you got expelled. And this is, we were wondering at the beginning of this recording what the alternative to joining the Peacekeepers was going to be for him. And you're right. It doesn't say. It just says that that don't conflate the boy's actions, that what Snow did was faulty strategy, what Sejanus did was treasonous, and that they had to pay by building her a new lab. So yeah, we don't really know what was going to happen to him. I'm very curious now. What were they going to do? What did they save him from?
I feel like it had to have been like execution, something really dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, treason is a fucking serious charge, usually dealt with. I mean, I feel like they said a bunch of times that treason is dealt with, you know, you can lose your head for it. Or I might be confusing my fucking Song of Ice and Fire with my Hunger Games universe right now.
You know, whatever. It's fine.
They don't actually lose their heads in this universe. They just hang them.
There was a point so funny in this book I'm covering where there's like two different planets that have very different systems of like managing. And one of them is very like, it's not even just socialist. It's like they just don't take violent action as punishment. And the other does. And the other planet finds a guy that was a deserter from their army. And this kid's deciding, like, should I turn him in? And when the one from the, like, nice, in quotes, planet is like, well, what would happen to him? He says, well, the punishment is quartering. And the guy's like, well, he's been quartered here for ages, and I don't feel like that's so bad. And he's like, not quartering like domiciled, quartering like cut into 4 pieces. And the guy says, but that would kill him. The guy is just like, wow, really quick on the uptake. Good job, buddy.
Cut him into pieces. I heard a really bad side effect of that is death. Are you sure you want to do that?
Oh my God. So you're right, Coriolanus. I've been stupid again. I'll be more careful in the future, whatever that holds. Probably some fried bologna. Well then, lead on. The bunkmates were just oh my God. Bunkmates. Bunkmates. That's so hard. We're just rolling out of bed when they returned. Sejanus took Beanpole out to work on his drills, and Smiley and Bug went over to see what was happening in the rec room. Coriolanus planned to use the hours until dinner studying for the officer candidate test, but his conversation with Sejanus had planted an idea in his brain. And he's like, So first he writes a letter to Dr. Gall, which feels insane to me.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to be drawing any of her attention on me at all. Thanks.
not right
again.
now. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
not right now, not at all. I mean, he just fucking got here, and he is remembering where they left off is with the lesson that she had him doing, which is like, tell me more about chaos and write more about like how we can control. And the last bit was the contract, the sort of social contract. So he writes about the role the peacekeepers have in keeping the battle between chaos and control. And he's like, and where I am now, I have a front row seat to that. I get to see what it looks like in real time. And talks about how it reminds him when he was in the arena, when the violence happened at the Hob. It made him think about what it was like and what it felt like, and how this time he felt more prepared for the fight. And he says to her, it takes very little to bring the beast to the surface, at least under the cover of darkness. I wonder how many of those miners would have thrown a punch if the capital could have seen their faces. In the midday sun of the hanging, they grumbled but didn't dare to fight. It's something to think over while my lip heals. So, yeah, this idea that if you can keep everybody assured that all their actions are being monitored and watched, then that's a way to control them. But if you give them any kind of cover, they're going to exploit that the minute they get an opportunity to. So you can never let them have like cover of night or darkness or anything. They've got to be like under constant surveillance. And I can't remember if in the first books, if that was a thing. Like, I know that everybody had to, like, watch the news for the certain broadcasts that were mandatory and that the Hunger Games were mandatory. And that peacekeepers were dispatched at all the districts. But was there a sense that they were being watched? I remember Katniss later on specifically being watched by Snow and whoever else. But was that sort of an overall feeling in the districts that they were being watched all the time? I can't remember if that
I don't think so. Okay. I think there was just a sort of like, there's not enough money to power video cameras, so we don't have to worry about it here because they don't bother with us. Okay. Like the same as them not sending power into the electric fence.
Right.
That they were not worth wasting the resources on. Gotcha. At least initially.
And that's why they were able to sort of exist in this sort of like this in-between area where the Hob was able to like function and the black market was booming and she was able to hunt and kill game and sell it and everything. Okay. So yeah, he sends this letter. He has the good sense that he doesn't really give it to anybody to put in the mail. He doesn't like let Sejanus know that he's written this letter. He does it quietly and then drops it in the mail. And, we find out that the officer's test is coming up. They only do it a couple times a year. So Snow is going to take it. And he asks Sejanus, like, hey, you should take it too. And Sejanus is like, nah. Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Maybe later. And Snow is trying to convince him, like, well, if you're an officer, maybe you would have a better chance of training as a medic. And Sejanus is like, well, all right, maybe. He's so agreeable. He's just like, well, I'll talk to the doctors at the clinic and find out what path they took. And maybe if, the officer's test is a way to go, I'll consider it then.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to tell if he's being agreeable really, or if he's just saying whatever to get Coriolanus to stop talking to him about it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't know.
I think it might be a little bit of both. Like, I think he doesn't want to fight with Snow, especially after this fuck up, right? This major
true
call, right? He doesn't want to like be on the outs because he just did this fucking ridiculous thing with Billy Taupe. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So like he doesn't want to like fight about it. So I think you're right. He just wants Snow to like leave him alone. But I think also that he takes Snow's advice so seriously, so earnestly that him, Snow being like, hey, the officer's test might be a way to like get where you're trying to go. I think Sejanus is like, he might know something about that. Like, because I think Sejanus understands, like, the bit about telling Snow, I've been watching how you watch people, like, and I've clocked that about you. I think Sejanus knows. He might not think of Snow as being self-serving, but I think he does respect the way Snow thinks and the way he's able to get and accomplish the things that he wants to get and accomplish. I think he knows that to be true. So, yeah, I think he might be seriously considering it, just because Snow recommended it as a course of action, because he values Snow's prowess when it comes to these types of things, you know?
Prowess. Yeah, I like it.
So, what happens? Oh my God, the birds.
The next is the
birds.
the mockingjays that are being collected by the scientists, and he gets really tense. Which once again, Sejanus knows. Like, he is very aware of Snow's feelings on things, and here he is like, she's not going to be here, you know. Like, he's just trying to calm him down, and there is a woman that Snow recognizes, but it's really about whether she recognizes him. Yeah. And she doesn't seem to.
Y'all, I can't front. I got so nervous thinking Dr. Gall was going to show up. I cannot express to y'all how much I don't want to see her. Like, I got legit like, oh my God, is she going to be here? He just sent this letter. She hasn't gotten it yet. Is she going to be? I was so fucking happy she doesn't show up. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really remarkable how, like, the dread of that woman with that standing away, and he's watching her slowly turn around, and I was just like, come on, what is that? And then it turns out it's just a scientist. I was like, you fucking bitch. My God. You got me going.
Yeah, I fell for it too. I really did. It was horrible. And then I had this moment of being like, oh, it's not her, and being relieved, and then immediately being like, but she works with her. She's probably another fucking psychopath. Like, this is probably, you know, not going to be great either, but at least it's not Dr. Gall. So it was like a weird, like a roller coaster moment for me of emotions, of being like really nervous, great relief, to then being like, oh, but I don't know though. I don't know this chick.
Yeah, she, I am sure that there are some scientists that aren't complete maniacs, but I just don't see how you work with that woman every day and you don't start to reconsider your line of work. You know what I mean?
Like, right. Like, there's that, but also like, what do you have to show Dr. Gall in order for Dr. Gall to be like, yes, you, I want you to be in charge. Yeah, you lead the team. You know, who do you have to be to impress her? It can't be good.
Yikes.
It cannot be good.
That's
like maybe some of the lackeys might like not be corrupted yet, but if you're in charge under Dr. Gall, I don't even want to consider it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, all right. We have this whole thing with them collecting the birds, and then the rest of his squad was still out with the Citadel scientists, climbing trees and activating the traps, so he wandered over to collect the mail for his room. 2 giant boxes from Ma Plinth greeted him, promising another wild night at the Hob. He carried them back, but decided to wait to open them until the others returned. Ma had also sent him a separate letter, thanking him for all he had done for Sejanus and asking him to continue to keep an eye on her boy.
Somebody needs to.
Coriolanus put down the letter and sighed at the thought of being Sejanus' keeper. Escaping the capital may have temporarily relieved his torment, but he'd already worked himself into a state about the rebels. The thing was, he didn't believe Sejanus would ever really change, and he didn't really want to. And then he's like, and then he goes into Sejanus' stuff, into his locker.
Yeah. He says the Sejanus would always have like a moral duty to help the people of the district rebels. because they would always have a just cause on their side, and Sejanus would always think it was the moral thing to do to assist them. And that recognition of who he believes Sejanus to be creates a panic for Snow, which I thought was really interesting. He had tried to shrug off Sejanus's misguided behavior in the Capitol, but here it's different. Like the Capitol, we were kids, we were students, we had a bit of like leeway. But now we're grown-ups and we're peacekeepers, and it's much more of life and death. Like what Sejanus is playing with, Snow says, could put him in front of a fucking firing squad. And that's a different set of rules, you know, that, and he is correct. He's not wrong here, you know.
It's true.
And on an impulse, he opens up Sejanus's locker and starts going through his shit, which is personally for me, that is like going through people's stuff is such a violation. It is really like one of the most like unforgivable things, you know. There's not like a lot of like what the kids call virtue signaling that like I do is like personally, but like this is one thing I can say I just don't do. Like I don't go through people's shit, you know. I just don't, because knowing what it feels like for someone to go through your stuff, it's the worst feeling. I had a post up one time about my stepmother reading my diary, and so many of my friends commented about how they had had that experience, and we're all middle-aged adults, and we all still vividly remember that feeling of betrayal and violation of someone going through our shit, going through our reading our personal stuff. It is just such a big no-no. And so, he goes through his shit and, you know, finds Sejanus's meds, which he thinks is weird. Like, why would you have them here? I'm like, because you need meds. What do you mean? Of course you got this meds.
One of the things he's got is morphling, which seems like pretty strong for whatever is going on with him. And I'm curious about what he has happening that requires a drug like that.
I remember when he was in his depression earlier in the book, and when he went over to the house, like Sejanus was sleeping all the time. And I guess he doesn't seem to be experiencing any nightmares while he's at the Peacekeepers, but maybe he was having like really bad nightmares or something. He also was injured pretty significantly, I think. Didn't he have like some kind of really bad leg injury? He was the last one out. And
I honestly can't even remember what he did to himself, but I lose track of all of the injuries in these books, actually.
But
to be honest.
So I'm thinking like maybe it was for the pain. But so he finds a couple of like little things. He finds a bunch of photos, family photos, like every year. He finds a class picture, and it is a class from when Sejanus was still in District 2. And Marcus is in the picture. And then Snow realizes that there are no pictures from the Capitol classmates that Sejanus had. And not even a picture of Snow. And this, for some reason, this seemed the greatest confirmation of where Sejanus's loyalties lay. Because he didn't have a picture of Snow and those classmates in his things. That is the greatest confirmation as far as
this man is very
concerned.
Predictable. I'm just saying.
Talk about fucking main character energy all the time, everywhere, in every. He's the main character, not just in his life, but in his imagination, he's the main character in everybody else's life as well. Like,
oh my god, it's true.
Like, he is the main character in Sejanus's life. If you ask Snow about it,
God.
But then
I love this, like. Main character syndrome gets overused, but God, it really is so perfect for him.
It really is. It is. Like, just My God, yeah. Everything. Like he's the main character in his love affair with Lucy Gray. He's the main character at school. He was the main character for the Hunger Games. He just, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a. I cannot even imagine what that's like to go through life thinking that way. Like I can't even pretend to like. I couldn't even give an example, like what it's like to like feel like that and move through the world that way.
Yeah.
I couldn't even come up with an example for it. It's so foreign. But the big thing that he finds is a diploma in a frame that happens to have like $100,000 stuff behind it. He finds a giant wad of money. And this is a problem because they're not supposed to have any money. They've been trading the food that Ma sends to get, liquor and tickets to the show. And Sejanus has got thousands and thousands of dollars squirreled away.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody comes back and he puts everything away real quick. And Snow says to Sejanus, thank God your mom sent all that food. Otherwise, we'd all be flat broke. And Sejanus goes, yep, not a penny between us. And Coriolanus thinks to himself, well,
yeah,
I'd never questioned his honesty before, but he just lied right to my fucking face. And he did it as naturally as if it were the truth, which meant that now anything he said was suspect. And that felt like a little bit of a leap.
I mean, when he's that convincing, evidently, the way he said it, I mean, that is sort of the result of getting caught in a lie.
Okay. Well,
there's
a thing that Snow was wondering, does Sejanus even know that this money is here? Or did his parents do it without his knowledge, thinking that money, could come in handy? Like if Sejanus were to call home and be like, oh, I'm in trouble. Or if Sejanus got caught doing something and they called his parents, his dad could be like, I'll tell you where to get 50 grand if you like let my son go. Go check his locker behind the silver frame, So Coriolanus is not even certain that Sejanus did this, stashed this money here.
That's true.
But when he asks Sejanus and Sejanus says no, we don't have any money, Coriolanus is like, caught you in a lie. Did you?
That's true.
Are we
That's
sure
true.
you caught him in a lie?
Yeah. I mean, what do you think is going on with this money? Do you have any theories?
Well, the way it's because I am of the mind that Sejanus is not like a duplicitous person and seems to be have a real disdain for the way his father moves and constantly buying their way out of trouble, buying Sejanus out of consequences. It doesn't track for me that Sejanus would bring all this money knowingly with him when it seems like that's what he's been trying to like distance himself from. But Sejanus is also the type of person that would give money to really poor people if he thought he could get away with it. So there's one part of my brain that's like, maybe he did squirrel this money in, but not for his own use. Maybe he thought he was going to be able to help people who were less fortunate than him. Like he could get, he could use his money finally for good. And that's why he snuck it in. And that's why he's not using it for things like trading at the Hob or going to shows, because this money is earmarked for something much more noble. So I'm really torn, but those are my two theories. Either his dad did it so that he could bail Sejanus out of trouble, or Sejanus brought it with the intent to use it to help someone who he thought was in need of help, You know, whether it's like somebody who comes up to him that he meets. Oh, what if he's thinking about funding the rebel cause? Jesus Christ, he can't be that insane.
I mean,
right?
that's a lot of money, and so that's sort of where my mind went.
Like if he could just get hooked up with the right people, he could really fund their movement.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah, that's definitely possible.
Indeed.
All right.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Da-da-da-da. All right, guys, you know what we've got to do? We have got to do the old saying hi to the new patrons. All right, who have we got? We've got Dana Dyer. Hi, Dana. And Rainieri. Woo! Thank you very much. Appreciate you both, and I hope that you are enjoying being patrons. You guys have no idea how long the delay was between me pressing those buttons and it starting and stopping. Wow, it just kept going. But yes, thank you very much for becoming patrons, and just really want to thank everybody who's out there supporting us, because I know that times are tough for a lot of folks, and you know they are tough for us as well. It has been a difficult couple of years, yeah. And I just really appreciate making space in your budget to give us a little bit of scratch. It's appreciated. So if you're interested, go to patreon.com/unspoiled. You'll get access to so much stuff. And I am going to be doing an Unsober tomorrow for the high rollers with Miles. We're going to be talking about writing. So we'll be both talking with great authority about something we do not know anything about and are bad at. And if that sounds like fun to you, please come and join us. All right, everybody. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Are you coming to the tree where dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.